Alright, so this is going to be part 3 to what if Deku had all for one. So let's roll that intro.
They took it to 10. Let me tell you how I come through with the 1-2, kicking shit like kung fu. Treat a bad bitch like she average. I'm a savage, little hoe, what you want do? I'm about cash if the raw fast. I'ma get that little nigga by any means.
Alright, so last time I set a goal for the video and you guys pretty much got it within a few hours. And that was to get 50 likes within the day. And I knew you guys could do it since the previous part, before part 2, got over 100 likes in like a day and over 130 comments in a day, basically. So it's like my most popular video at this point, probably, or my fastest growing video. So I'd like to thank you for that. So let's get into a few things. Last time I asked you guys if there should be a ship or a harem, and you guys picked ship, and then I went individually to which character you want it with, and the top two were Momo and Jiro, and I went with Jiro because I've already done like a Momo and Deku ship, and most people do that kind of ship, so I want to do Jiro a bit. And I also asked you guys like who should get one for all, and it was a pretty close tie, or not tie, it was pretty close in general with Kirishima and Mirio, but I'm giving it to Mirio since most people did ask for him. So let's see what else. Oh yes, the costume. So for the costume, I actually I took some elements from All For One and made it like a little bit different. Like, you know how All For One wears a suit, but he has a shirt, but it's not buttoned all the way. And so I wanted to make a more stylish version. I gave Deku a blazer and made it white. I went for a sweet mask from One Punch Man kind of style. If you ever seen One Punch Man, he's the one with that's like the idol superhero. So what I did was, I gave him the white blazer, I gave him a red shirt, but since it's like not colored, you can't really tell. And then his sleeves are rolled up. I'm not really good at like making or drawing like wrinkles in clothes, so I apologize for that. I gave him like a watch. This could be like a kind of like a smartwatch where it has like, you could communicate with people and like do other things like that, right? So it's like a kind of a gadget. I gave him black pants. So I kind of went for like someone commented like the kind of color scheme that I should go with. So he would have like a white blazer, a red shirt, black pants, and then red shoes. I didn't draw the shoes because I didn't have that much time, and I had like less than like a day to do it. So yeah, I don't know. I gave him Aizawa's scarf because I think he would be around him so often, and he would know his fighting style because of his Taskmaster quirk. And someone said in the comments that Taskmaster could mimic voices, so I'll give him that power too. So let's get into the actual what if at this point. So it'd be the next day after the meeting with All Might at the beach. All Might would say to Midoriya, or Deku says, "Young Midoriya, I've chosen someone to be the successor for One for All." And Midoriya would be like, "Oh, who is it?" And All Might would say it's Mirio, one of the students from the Big Three. And he'd be really excited about that. And All Might would be like, soon you'll meet him, but that's in the future. So Deku says, All Might, is it like time to do it? And All Might agrees that it is. So what they're going to do is that Deku's gonna transfer his regeneration quirk to All Might. Because you might be saying like, oh, why didn't he do this before? Well, they were kind of waiting until he found a successor, so that if anything were to go wrong, that there would be a successor to One for All. So Deku would touch All Might's shoulder, and he would look into his eyes, and then this is when he transfers the regeneration quirk to him, and then this is when All Might kind of stumbles back, and he feels something, and is like he feels his stomach regenerating, becoming new, and this actually heals the scar that was left previously. So after that's done, he takes the quirk back, and All Might's feeling kind of tired, because he was given a quirk and then taken back a few seconds later. So he's not going to keep the regeneration. So it's a prime All Might at this point, or around that strength level. So he gets to lunch, and this is when Ida, Deku, Uraraka, and I would say Bakugo too, because I think in this one they'll be closer friends, because of how Deku has proven how he's actually a nice person, and I think Bakugo would kind of be more humble because of Deku's quirk, and how completely the level between those two are completely different. So I think he'd be a little bit more humble, or he would get humble because of that. So this is when everyone thinks that the school is getting invaded by villains, but in reality it's actually just the media, because they know that All Might's actually teaching there. So what happens is that everyone goes into that hallway, and it gets crowded, and Ida would see that it's only the media, and he would tell the people around him, like Uraraka and Bakugo and Deku. So what would happen is that I think Bakugo would use his explosions, kind of like smaller versions, and since he's always kind of loud in general, I think he would get everyone's attention and tell them not to be so scared, it's only the media, and kind of ridicule the people who got scared. So the students, realizing that it's only the media, kind of laugh it off, and Bakugo just he's good grief, that JoJo reference right there. But anyways, so they get back to class later on in the day, and Aizawa tells them that they're going to the USJ to actually study rescue missions. So he tells everyone, pack your hero costumes and let's go. So Ida would encourage Deku to act more of a leader, since he's the second in command, or the vice, or I think it was called deputy in the show, since Deku's the class representative. So he's like, all right, everyone just get in a line and we'll go, right? And as he's going through everyone, he sees Jiro, and he actually compliments her on her style, since it's kind of her costume is more style than functionality, because the only thing that's actually part of her kit that's actually I guess used for combat or her defense is her speakers that she has in her boots. I don't think any of the other stuff, you could say that her clothes are more resilient than normal clothes, but other than that, it's not much. And I would say that Deku's hair fibers would be infused into his clothes, so they would have resistance to the quirks that he has. So it would be resistant to fire, electricity, I guess telekinesis in a way, uh, normal things like that. And I think there would be somewhat of elastic so that he could use his muscular quirk with him without like stretching or like completely like ripping, if that makes sense. So she wouldn't know what to say because she would think was out of the blue, and she would blush. And Deku, realizing what he said, he also blushes, and they continue on their way. So they have that conversation on the bus, and people ask Deku like, how does it feel to have this power, and are you the one that the government's using to take away quirks? And Deku says, I've been born with this quirk, and when I was small, when the doctors took this quirk assessment test to see what quirk I had, they seemed, from what I remember, they seemed pretty scared, and they took me to the local authorities, and ever since then I've just been working with them to take away quirks. And how do I feel about it? I think that it's a necessary part of the justice system, because there are people that will stop at nothing to hurt others, and sometimes it's sometimes you don't want to kill them. Sometimes it's better to just take away their means of hurting people. It might be a more efficient way than just straight out killing that person, because at least without their quirk they might change for the better, or we could at least contain them. And people are kind of shocked by this because it seemed pretty mature from their point of view. And Jiro's listening to this, and she kind of respects Deku in a way, because of all the kind of struggles he had to go through, not like physically, but more of like a society base, because he has to cope with the fact that he's taking other people's quirks, things that can never be brought back unless he gives them back, things that people were born with, right? And Deku kind of looks sad when he says this. I think at this point Bakugo would try to cheer up Deku in his own way. He'd be like, Midoriya or Izuku, don't think about it too much, it's a necessary part. And Deku's like, yeah. So he kind of gets cheered up by this. And by the end of this conversation, they actually get to the USJ. They all get out, single file, just like Ida wants it. And they get to the door and they open it, and that's when they meet the hero 13. And I'm gonna say that All Might's not here, because just like in all my other what ifs, when he's in his prime, I think he'd still be helping people out. So yeah. So so 13 would have that speech that she has in the anime, where she talks about how your powers can be used for good, but they could also hurt people. And this hits Deku really hard, because he knows that he's hurt people in the past because of his quirk. But then Bakugo's there, and he kind of bumps him on the shoulder and says it's all right, and Deku kind of gets a hold of himself. So they continue, and they're about to go down the stairs when the gate opens, the gateway, and this is when all the villains come out, and Shigaraki, Kurogiri, and the Nomu also come out. And the students would be like, I thought we're doing rescue missions, not villain attacks. And Aizawa was like, this isn't a test, and he would motion to Midoriya, or Deku would be like, Midoriya, let's just do the usual. And then Deku would be like, understood. And those two would rush out, fighting. So I would say that Deku at this point he has a hard time using multiple quirks at once, depending on how much he needs to focus on individual ones. So like he could use like his like muscle enhancement like with other quirks, but it's um if he uses like more complex ones like slow down time with like teleportation, it's kind of hard for him to do things like that. So what Deku does is that he rushes with Aizawa, and he's actually using his muscle enhancement, his muscular quirk, and he's using his like scarf to like take down villains just like Aizawa is doing, because he's like copying his movements. And any like you know like characters that have like projectiles, he's actually stopping the projectiles with his telekinesis. And what he does is that, the more he gets surrounded, he starts making like fire clones, because of his Promethean's flame quirk. And he would see like a bunch of enemies lined up, and he would use his black lightning. But to use his black lightning, he would have to deactivate his like muscle enhancement, because he has his like flame clones out. So he doesn't want to focus on too many things at once. So we cut back with the students, right? And 13 suggests or tells Ida to go and run and get help. So Kurigari tries to block their exit, and this is when he teleports like half the students, over the USJ. And the only ones left are Bakugo, Kirishima, Sero, and that one person that gets stronger with sugar. I forgot his name. And just the main people from the anime still stay there. So after Deku and what's his name, Aizawa actually take out most of the villains, this is when the Nomu comes to attack, and he actually goes for Aizawa first. And since his super strength isn't like tied to a quirk, I think Aizawa would kind of like lose that fight. So Deku would try to go and go after him, and he would use his muscular quirk to kind of fight him. But since he has his blazer and his like clothes can stretch, he what's it called? Shigaraki doesn't see that he actually has the muscular quirk since it's covered by the clothes. He just sees that he has like a kind of transformation quirk that makes him stronger. And he has a scarf, right? So he would try to, use the scarf, and it would kind of like tie the thing down, and he would try to go for a punch, and like it wouldn't work. He would do a barrage of punches, and it just wouldn't do anything. So what happens is that Shigaraki, being really cocky, says that his, you should probably give up. His quirk is, what's it called? Shock absorption. So after Deku hears this, Deku kind of like tightens the scarf around the Nomu, and he actually uses some of his telekinesis. So he's using 2 quirks at this point. He retreated his fire earlier after most of the villains were done. So he's using his telekinesis in combination with his muscular quirk to like pull down his Nomu. And what he does is that he goes up to him, and Shigaraki's like, what is this guy doing? So what Deku does is that he looks into the Nomu's eyes, and he touches like the shoulder of the Nomu, and he uses his plunder quirk to steal shock absorption. So after this is done, Deku squeezes the scarf even more, and this actually starts to hurt the Nomu. It actually starts breaking some of its bones, and Deku uses like his black lightning ability to kind of fry the Nomu, since his scarf is like metal. The lightning would travel up it and kind of like, I think that would actually like fry the Nomu's brain, which would cause it to die. Like, I don't know how regeneration would work with that. But we could say that, Deku sees that like he has a second quirk, which is regeneration, so it's not working. So what he does is that he kind of makes like a, the bones are still broken, but they're slowly becoming like starting to heal. So Deku like makes a like fire, like dagger, since that's one of the abilities he can do, and he actually stabs it into the Nomu's brain, and this actually makes the fire spread out, and there's like fire coming out of every like direction, every like orifice from like his face. So it's coming out of his like eye sockets and like ears and mouth, and that's all the fire like coming out, and it's actually like destroys the Nomu's brain. Like it basically incinerates it, like almost like Endeavor versus one of the Nomus. After seeing this, Shigaraki's completely freaked out, and he like yells at Kurigiri to like get him out of here because he wasn't expecting this. So Kurigiri, escapes from the other kids, the other students, and he takes Shigaraki with him. So what happens is that, this is way before the heroes are coming. So, Aizawa's nowhere near as hurt as he was in the anime. Only like he only took like a few hits from the Nomu. So, Aizawa would be like, that villain teleported the students are all around the area with different villains. So, I'll take this side and you'll take the other, and we'll kind of take out all the villains that are near. So Aizawa actually goes with to where Froppy and Mineta is, where they're at, and Deku goes where Momo, Jiro, and Kaminari's at. And this is the point where Kaminari's like about to or is being held hostage by that other villain that can use electricity. So what happens is that Deku uses, I think he would use a combination of his slow down time ability to kind of go up to the villain and kind of like hit him on the back of the head, and using his like muscular ability at the same time. So this would knock out the villain, and Momo and Jiro would see this, and they would see him as like a hero, since they were in a pretty tight spot and they didn't know how they could get out of it. So Aizawa, I think that he would kind of get the attention of the underwater villains by kind of taunting them, right? And this would give enough time for Froppy and Mineta to escape. So after a few moments of this, the other students would fight their battles, and they would get, they would win them, and this is when the other heroes come through, and they would just basically wipe out all the other villains that are still around. And if you guys want, we could say that one of the villains within the group was a very high tier villain, and you guys could ask for one ability, one quirk, and I might add it. So yeah, so after this is done, Deku and everyone are relieved that everyone's safe, and I think Jiro would go up to thank Deku for what he did, and Deku would kind of be kind of flustered, and he would be like, "Oh, it was no trouble at all. I just did what any hero would do." And in hearing this, I think Jiro would kind of fall for him, him being so selfless, and being somewhat really powerful. I think that would be attractive for her, you know. So I think I'll end it here, and you know, things like prototype, I'll upload that sometime soon. I gotta rewatch the anime, so I hope you understand. I'm still continuing like other what ifs. It's just that you guys really wanted this one, and it's my most like fastest growing series. So yeah, we're almost at 400 subscribers. So remember to like, comment, and share, I guess, this video. Comment down below, like I said before, what quirks you want that one major villain to have that Deku would take his power from. And you know, this is gonna be the end of the video. So yeah,